I never thought I'd discover my wife was cheating on me while shopping for a vacuum. My wife Sarah and I had been married for 7 years. We met in college during late-night study sessions that blossomed into love. On paper, we had a perfect life, great jobs, a lovely home, and endless shared memories. Yet, I began to notice subtle changes. She grew distant, often engrossed in her phone. I attributed it to work stress or life's ups and downs, but one Sunday afternoon, while testing vacuums, everything unraveled. I overheard 2 sales associates discussing a woman who frequently visited the store with different men. The description matched Sarah. I initially dismissed it as coincidence, but unease lingered. Later, I asked her about her weekend plans. She hesitated, stammering that she had gone out with friends. Her vague responses, which I had previously overlooked, now seemed suspicious. Days went by, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I checked our joint bank account and found odd transactions, dinners at unfamiliar places, and expensive gifts that didn't add up. When I confronted her, she shrugged it off as a splurge for a friend's birthday. I tried to ignore it, but then I ran into Sarah's friend Lisa while grocery shopping. She looked uncomfortable and said, "I saw Sarah at the coffee shop last week. She seemed happy." The way she said it sent chills down my spine. That night, I confronted Sarah, laying everything out: the overheard conversations, financial discrepancies, and my growing dread. I expected shock or denial, but she laughed. "You think I'm cheating? You have a wild imagination." Her disdain made me feel unmoored. I watched her twist the truth, feeling like a spectator in my own life. I spent a sleepless night consumed by self-doubt. Was I imagining things? The thought tormented me. The next morning, I decided to take control. I documented everything and followed her on a day she claimed to be working late. I found her car parked outside a restaurant, one of those fancy places where she had supposedly splurged on a friend's birthday. When I confronted her again, the mask slipped. She turned cold. "I can't believe you would stoop this low," she said sharply. The realization hit me. She was living a double life. Rage and heartbreak washed over me. "Why? Why would you do this?" I whispered. "Because you're boring," she replied, as if it were normal. In that moment, I realized I was clinging to a relationship she had already discarded. I decided then that we were done. I contacted a lawyer and began the process of ending our marriage. The emotional fallout was immense. I felt like a ghost in my own life, haunted by memories now tainted. Friends supported me, but at times I felt utterly alone, navigating an unfamiliar world. Weeks later, once everything was finalized, I found solace in the thought that I'd escaped the toxic situation. I began rediscovering myself, focusing on my passions and exploring hobbies I had set aside during our marriage. Looking back, the signs were always there, but I had been too caught up in love to see them. To anyone reading this who has similar doubts, trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't dismiss it. Know your worth and stand firm in your truth. You deserve honesty and respect in your relationships. Life is too short to live in the shadows of someone else's deception. Letting go is painful, but sometimes it's the only way to truly find yourself again. I never thought I'd find myself writing this, but here I am, devastated and lost. My life has unraveled in ways I never anticipated. My wife of 5 years, the person I trusted most, cheated on me, and I discovered it unexpectedly. We had a solid relationship, or so I believed. Our evenings were filled with laughter, and we shared dreams of a bright future. However, looking back, there were subtle signs I overlooked. Late nights at work, a sudden obsession with her appearance, and her growing distraction with her phone during our conversations. I convinced myself it was just her focus on her career and wanting to look good for me. The first warning bell came when I overheard a conversation between her and a friend at a gathering. They laughed a little too hard at a joke about keeping things exciting in relationships, but I dismissed it as playful banter. Later that week, I noticed strange charges on our bank statement. dinner at a fancy restaurant on a night she claimed she was out with coworkers. When I asked, she laughed it off, saying they had decided to celebrate after a successful project. Something felt off, but I didn't press further. Things took a turn when I bumped into an old friend of hers of the grocery store. He looked awkward when I mentioned my wife, shifting his eyes as if trying to dodge a bullet. I played it cool, but dread settled deep in my gut. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Then came the night that shattered everything. I was making dinner while my wife was supposed to be at a team-building event. Instead, I received a notification from our shared family calendar: dinner with Mark. Mark was someone she used to work with, but hadn't mentioned in years. My heart sank. I knew this wasn't just a casual meetup. I decided to follow her that night, something I never thought I would do. I parked down the street from the restaurant I suspected she'd be at. My heart raced as I watched her get out of her car and meet someone. I couldn't see his face, but their embrace felt too intimate for just friends. I snapped a quick picture, not for evidence, but to ground myself in reality. When she finally came home, I confronted her, feeling like a volcano about to erupt. "How was dinner with Mark?" I asked, my voice trembling. The color drained from her face, and for a moment I thought she might stumble over her words. Instead, she turned it around on me. "Why would you think that? You're being paranoid. This is ridiculous." Her dismissive tone stung more than the accusation itself. I showed her the picture, forcing her to confront the evidence of her betrayal. She shifted from defensive to angry, accusing me of being controlling and invading her privacy. In that moment, shock turned to rage, then to deep, searing pain. I felt like I was choking on my despair. My mind raced through memories of our time together, the laughter, dreams, shared moments, and they all felt like a cruel joke. How could she do this to us? I was flooded with self-doubt, questioning my worth and whether I had missed the signs pointing to this impending disaster. After several days of sleepless nights filled with anguish and 10-minute-long fights where she shifted blame to me, I decided to file for divorce. It felt like severing a limb, but I knew I had to reclaim my life. The emotional fallout was brutal. I struggled with feelings of anger, betrayal, and overwhelming loss. I sought therapy, realizing the importance of processing this trauma. I've been on this journey for several months now. With each passing day, I'm learning to rebuild my identity outside our relationship. I understand that I deserve someone who prioritizes honesty and loyalty, not someone who twists the truth to fit their narrative. To anyone who might find themselves in a similar situation, trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't dismiss it. Pay attention to the signs and value yourself enough to walk away from the toxic. Healing is a messy process, but it's worth it. I'm slowly finding pieces of myself again, and my story isn't over yet.
I never imagined I'd discover my wife's infidelity during a mundane moment, grocery shopping. Life has a peculiar way of revealing gut-wrenching truths. My wife, Mia, and I had been married for 7 years. Like any couple, we faced ups and downs, but I always believed we were solid. She was my best friend, my rock, the person I envisioned a future with. But then the first warning signs emerged. It began subtly. Mia started coming home later from her evening runs, claiming she was just catching up with friends. I brushed it off, convincing myself she needed her space and that I should trust her. However, the lingering scent of unfamiliar perfume on her clothes and her sudden fatigue for intimacy started to gnaw at me. Still, I told myself I was being paranoid. What reason did I have to suspect her? Then came the day I overheard a conversation. I had dropped by her office to surprise her with lunch. As I walked down the hallway, I caught snippets of a chat with a coworker, Sarah. "No one can know," Mia whispered, urgency lacing her tone. "It'll ruin everything." My heart raced. I should have turned back, but curiosity took over. I pressed my ear closer to the door, drowning out my anxiety. I didn't hear anything specific, but the fear that gripped me was unmistakable. A few days later, I decided to check our joint bank account, something I rarely did. As I scrolled through the transactions, my stomach dropped. There were multiple charges at a hotel I'd never heard of, along with several purchases at a restaurant Mia detested. A sick feeling settled in my gut. I recalled the time she'd worked late and her vague excuses for being unreachable. It felt like piecing together a puzzle I didn't want to see. That weekend, I attended a friend's barbecue. I couldn't shake the feeling I needed to talk, so I confided in my buddy, Jake. He paused, looking at me with an expression that made my heart race again. "You should talk to Mia. I heard whispers at work involving her and that guy Tom." Tom! I recognized him as the charming guy from her office, always joking and giving Mia lingering looks. Rage coursed through me, yet I felt paralyzed, like I was watching a train wreck unfold. That night, when Mia came home, I decided to confront her. I was shaking, my voice barely steady. "Are you having an affair?" The way she froze for a moment told me everything. Her eyes darted away and fear replaced her composure. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, denial washing over me like a tidal wave. I laid out everything, the overheard conversation, the hotel charges, and Jake's words. Instead of breaking down, she became defensive and angry. "You're being ridiculous. You have no idea what you're talking about." Her words stung, a mixture of disbelief and contempt. As she continued to deny everything, my heart shattered. This wasn't just betrayal, it was the unraveling of the bond I thought we shared. I felt a deep, suffocating pain that left me dizzy. I became a stranger in my own home, questioning every moment we had shared, every laugh, every tear. The realization settled in like a heavy fog. This was a complete erasure of trust. The following weeks were a blur. I moved into the spare bedroom, and each interaction with Mia felt like walking on eggshells. We barely spoke, but I caught glimpses of her texting at odd hours and leaving the house without a word. Eventually, I decided to file for divorce. I needed to reclaim my life, even if it meant letting go of the woman I loved. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. In the aftermath, I found myself reflecting on everything. I learned that trust is fragile, easily broken, and once shattered, it's painfully difficult to piece back together. Often, we ignore red flags that hurt us. I wish I had trusted my instincts sooner. To anyone reading this who feels something is off in their relationship, trust your gut. Don't dismiss the signs. You deserve honesty, love, and respect. Life moves on, and so will I. But that lesson is indelibly etched in my heart.